Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I am so thrilled to have you join us today. This podcast is dedicated to exploring the idea of doing business and living life with a purpose, serving others, and yes, achieving success. You know what? I'm going to stop there. I'm going to keep going, but you know, our work in our lives, if we think of it as a servant's heart, we can make a difference. And today's a difference maker show. It's going to be intense and it's going to be deep purposely because my guest is, I want to say, I hate to say that he's an expert, but he's been through it and experienced, teaches us tons of lessons. And I'm not going to go through all my monologue. I just want you to think today, how you're going to serve today and what impact you create today while you're listening to my great guest. And after you listen, I think you're going to want to do it even more because we do not know what people's shoes they're walking in. All we can do is be there with a servant's heart and support them any way we can. And we'll talk more about that today. And my episode is proudly sponsored by our phenomenal partner, Pantheon Alliance. Imagine being part of an exclusive community of high-income, successful business owners and entrepreneurs from very diverse industries. Together, we're building a thought leader, expert marketplace where we can make an impact and change the world. And the subject that we're going to talk about today is impact and suicide. You know, I've had a number of guests that have actually been close to taking their own life and didn't, and are doing great things in the world. But my guest is, interesting enough, using tech to help with this. And I'm so excited because I'm a big tech guy. I want to welcome Robert to the show.
Thank you. Yeah, what an introduction. You already got my stomach sort of churning on the intensity of what we'll talk about. It's going to be life-giving too, you know, the way we can talk about this, because I just know who you are and what I'm up to. But at the same time, yeah, it is intense. This is the stuff that all of us have question marks in our head and our heart about. Background's
not usually something I do, but it's important in this case. Talk about your background with your brothers and why this all came about.
Yeah, I grew up a bit of a golden boy. I was the middle of three brothers, the Feeney brothers. So I'm Robert Feeney, my older brother Tommy, and my younger brother Michael. And the golden boy identity of me is I was the mediator between them. I always seemed to be the achiever. My older brother and younger brother ended up suffering with some very severe bipolar mental health conditions. It was really acute. By the time I reached my adult life, both of them had taken their own lives through suicides. So I was launched out into my adult life, having lost my wingman, right? And when you grow up with an identity wrapped around your siblings or whether or not you have siblings. And so that identity got torn out. And instead, I then launched into adulthood thinking, how do I make sense of that? And how do I find something like a remedy to it? And I don't think I knew this articulately in my 20s, but by the time I got to my 30s, I started getting clear on it. I was looking for the key to behavior change. What could my brothers have taken on as a way of shifting their behaviors, shifting their outlooks on life, so that they wouldn't go the ultimate route of taking their life? What is the key to that? And that's become now, I guess I'm 54 years old. It's now my life's work, if I look back. And I have, as you pointed out, Steve, I built technology around this and a process and methodology that's clinically proven on how do you shift human behavior. And even so, 2 decades into this, I feel like I'm just at the beginning of it. Every day, I always feel like I'm this entrepreneur who's just starting to figure out small little things and I'm pushing it uphill.
Yeah. It's Interesting. I think we're running into a little
The point where,
problem.
by the way, my baby brother, who's just south of 40 years old, has an even more acute version of that bipolar condition, to the point where he doesn't hold down a job. And my mother works with doctors almost like an amateur scientist, along with him, his name is Richard, to keep him alive. And so, no, I can't say that I'm officially an expert in it, but with the kind of lived experience I have, and then the way I've delved in with partners and people who truly are experts in this, I have a very real world experience and capability that I've developed around me that I love being able to share with others.
What's somebody listening that has a passion, something tragic like this has happened, and like your passion is Ringarang, we'll talk about here in a second. What do you suggest to them if they want to tie legacy to a project? What's the first step?
Do you mean like going in the direction that I did, where it's just like I have a legacy of certain experiences and I want to turn it into a product?
Yeah.
Okay. What I would say is that in my case, I kind of didn't know that's what I was doing. As I mentioned, in my 20s, I wasn't so clear about it. In fact, if anything, I was in an escape route. I was trying to figure out how to get away from what at the time I judged was a screwed up family that must have caused this. Right. And that's, it's the judgment of an early 20-year-old who's like, I don't know what the heck just happened. It's like a bomb hit, and there must be something very wrong. So I escaped, and it's in my quiet times, before I was really an entrepreneur, but I was kind of thinking about how do I forge my way through life, and entrepreneurship just turned out to be a way of doing it. I was thinking about, well, how do I figure out what's at the root of all that and what's wrong with it? Now, what I just said is a very personal journey, but at the same time, that is the exact same question that you answer when you're starting a business or trying to create a product. You ask, what's a problem in the world that I can solve? And I can take a unique approach at solving that, or a unique combination of resources to solve it. And then that's what you go about. So if you've got the legacy, as you use the word you used, of a certain amount of experiences that get you up in the morning because you want to go solve that problem, you're going to be one of the more successful, or at least very passionate creators of a business like that. And by the way, funders of business look for people like that. A VC company, the smarter ones, the more successful ones, they're banking on the founder. They're less so banking on the technology than they are on the founders, because they know if that founder is really invested in the outcome, they're not going to jump ship when they hit a valley. They're going to go at that thing. So that's what I would say. It's, if you've got a passion for something, for some problem you want to solve in the world that relates to your own experiences, run, don't walk toward helping to solve that problem any way you can, because the world needs that.
I've never heard that before. I've talked to a lot of VCs about passion is something they highlight. They look at, like they look at, okay, you have these two family members, die by suicide. Mm-hmm. He's building this as a legacy. And that's exactly, because I've had people reach out to me. I don't know, should I do it? And that's a great answer for them. Hope you're listening. If not, I'll get you this podcast so you can listen. Talk about Ringarang. What's about? We know what the mission is because you've told us, but what's the goal?
The goal is to shift the way we think about, shift the way we approach traditional learning, and instead make it, the only reason learning should exist is to shift a behavior. Right now, the way we think of learning is that it's giving information sufficiently that a person can use it. But you hear the words I use, can use it. It's not that they do use it, it's that they can use it. Well, that doesn't cause anything to happen in the real world. All that is an information getting system. But then everything after that is sort of like it's up in the air. Well, it might happen, might not. I mean, how many of us get degrees out of college and we never even use them? So giving information over is really just one fraction of, and the very beginning fraction of any process of learning. So Ringarang's whole goal is to transform the idea of learning into performance. The only reason that you get any sort of learning is so that you can do something in a world of performance. You can use it And then that use can be measured as having some impact somewhere. So that took us, before we even thought of building as a technology, that took me first personally thinking about, well, what causes behavior change? What causes somebody to make that decision and then take the actions necessary to change a behavior in their life? Now, all of us know what behavior change feels like. And there are only two ways really that it ever happens in the human being. One of them is trauma. Trauma rewires you instantly. Loss of my brothers, all of a sudden, my whole life is different and I'm thinking differently, right? Trauma, my pastor at my church just got into a horrible car accident about a month ago. I mean, just devastating car accident. And he came out of it with some big bruises, but that's all. It was miraculous. But now yesterday at church, he did an interview with another one of the pastors to share with everyone what he went through. And it was a trauma that his body continues a month later to respond to. And it's a very emotional thing. His body his brain is rewired around trying to protect himself from that ever happening again. And he's very articulate about that fact that this is his carnality going, whoa. The only other way beyond trauma to change a behavior is repetition. We all know that. You have to repeat something over and over again, or you don't take on a change. But how does most learning go? Most learning is a one-way street. It comes at you, usually like a fire hose, and it falls right off of you. The only learning that ever stays is what you repeat.
Interesting. Wow. And then it stays with you. You're smarter. That's probably the wrong word, but you're more intelligent. That, like this accident, he can handle it much better.
Yeah, you're more knowledgeable. And the scientific terms they use for it is retrieval. You have retrieval. You can go grab it and do something with it. Whereas learning that disappears because you don't repeat it, it isn't retrievable anymore. It's like memories you don't have anymore. Oh, I don't remember. I didn't remember that happened. Our brain is a sorting system. It turns out it's not actually so much a storage system and a memory. It filters out the stuff it doesn't need by the millions of, of thoughts and memories and images that we're capturing at all times. And then most of it washes away. The brain is expert at this, and it sorts out almost everything and keeps only what it thinks it needs to survive. So how does it know what's going to have it survive? Well, when it repeats, when it keeps coming up. If something keeps coming up over and over again, then the brain's like, okay, obviously this is important. And it registers that as important. Then all the more when you use the information, now the brain knows that it has to do more than remember it. It has to have a process around it, an application. So Ringarang is exactly that. It's basically a repetition system that re-nudges you between 1 to 3 minutes a day. That's all, on the in-between moments, to remind you of one coaching moment at a time, something that you need to get coached on, a tip, a trick, an important thing that you can do that's going to help you toward forming a habit. And I use that word habit very deliberately because behaviors are the outcome. It's sort of like that's a word we use to judge a bunch of actions someone's taking. Oh, that person has a behavior. It's the outcome of having taken a bunch of actions and putting them together into a routine that the brain automatically processes, and we call that a habit. Habit is another way of saying brain automation.
Wow. And I'm thinking servant's heart. I get asked all the time when I speak or mentoring people, I want to do it just like you. And I just realized I do it every day without thinking about it, because now my head says servant's heart, bring value, servant's heart. I always say it's like I have this acronym ABS, ABS, always be serving. You can work your abs every day, do your ABS. So that's what you're saying. Take that behavior of serving and just use that serving heart. Now, how do I take that habit, which I have, but someone who wants to grow it, and I use Ringarang to develop it?
If I could push the magic button, I would transform how we think of learning but specifically around wellness, it's a phenomenon I call the heat of the moment. I'll unpack that for you. First of all, it's like the heat of the moment. What I mean is that change, how we change our behaviors and our thoughts, doesn't actually happen over time. It feels like it. Feels like it's over time that I change how I deal with my diet, my exercise, my thinking processes, my culture, my intelligence, all that. It actually happens in the heat of a moment. Think about it when you're let's say, let's say somebody you're attracted to, that sort of prom situation when you're in high school, and you see somebody attractive across the room. It's like, oh, I so want to ask them to dance. And you're so uncomfortable, and you're like, the rejection scenarios are running through your head. And you're like, you're starting to sweat, you're starting to shake. And then at some point, you just step forward and you do it. It's the heat of the moment and taking the step past everything in your body telling you not to do it, and you do it. Now a new world just opened up. And whether or not that person accepts you or rejects you is almost irrelevant, because it's stepping forward and the experience of doing that in the heat of the moment that causes the possibility of behavior change to happen. The possibility wasn't even there before. And if we could take the idea of learning and say, that's just table stakes, man, giving information. What we need to do is practice people, get people to take on a practice of stepping past their discomfort to cause something new to happen. Now you can take that information from learning and start putting it into action. Filter out the stuff you don't need. Use the stuff over and over you can need. Now you know you're capable of it. And every human is capable of it. And every human has done it all their life. We just don't hearken back to that as the key to learning. Now, when it comes to wellness and suicide, in that moment, when you're telling yourself, your brain is saying, I can't go through this pain anymore. And by the way, one thing I can tell you that attends every suicide, Steve, you and I were talking about before this podcast about somebody who's a billionaire who just took his life recently. And then there's somebody who's like a young person whose life just seemed to be in a downward spiral in a depressive state, and everything in between. Like, what's the consistency between those? Well, the consistency is there's always one thing that attends a suicide, and it's a sense that I'm alone in this. It's not true that they're alone. It's the sense that I'm alone in it. It's something in their brain saying, you're alone in this, and it's never going to get better than this. And you're on this, you're going to have to figure it out by yourself. And at some point, they're just like, I don't want to do it anymore. So what if in the heat of that moment, when your brain's saying, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to just let it all go, you can say to yourself, that's not true. It's a belief I have. And in the heat of the moment, no matter what your brain and your body is telling you, you can step past it and say, it is possible that I can live a different life than the one I'm having. It is possible I can feel differently. It is possible. And there's another step I can take to get there. That would be the magic button push I would take if we all knew that that's what learning was really for.
You just gave us an example of why people do not die by suicide. They did exactly what you said. It's amazing what you just said. And the prom thing is funny. And I don't mind making fun because it's very serious, but really, if that woman or man or the boy or girl says no, it's next. I tell people all the time, ask somebody, hey, I'd love to hire, I'd love for you as a client. Here's what it's worth. They go, no, next. But our mind, because it's survival. So somebody dies by suicide, their survival is, I've just got to leave this world. I can't solve it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I'm alone in it.
I'm alone. That's the key.
And it's a key for those of us who are with others that are experiencing suicidality, because one of the best things, maybe the very best thing we can do, is just keep reminding that person that they're not alone, that you're there with them. The words sometimes matter. Sometimes it's not even the words. You just got to be shoulder to shoulder with them. You just got to sit there in their mess with them sometimes and not try to fix it. But anything you can do to help that person know that they actually aren't alone makes a difference.
That's so powerful. This has been a deep conversation. So let's have a little fun to end it. So you've got a table of 4 reserved at a restaurant.
Uh-huh.
You're going to sit at one of the tables. The other 3, dead or alive, who you can invite, why you're inviting them, and what food would you order?
Wow. Oh my gosh. Great question. I'm just like blown away at how you came up with that question, like what you were causing when you.
I used Ringarang in a sense. I did use Ringarang. So I'm just going to ask it. And if I get a great response, which I have, I just ask. Thank you.
Man, you just brought me back to something I haven't thought of in like 2 decades. And a couple decades ago, I came up with this idea that, and this was my magic button back then, was if I could pull together the thought leaders, let's say, in the main pillars that make life and civilization happen: government, industry, education, philanthropy, military, the arts, get them together and be able to pull like a thread that was at the key for all of them to make a change. And I think it would be what I was just describing, where we've got to know that everything that we're trying to cause in the world happens in the heat of the moment. If we focus on that, the practice of getting through that moment, you can transform absolutely any discipline in life. So in a sense, that's what I'm trying to do with Ringarang. I would fill those tables with the thought leaders in each of those disciplines and cause some experience. The food that I'd order, I suppose whatever would somehow prepare them for that kind of a conversation, that would have them be ready to just drop all of the posturing that we do. I'm sure you get this on this podcast a lot. It all comes down to authenticity and sharing BS and all of what you think you have to hold up to make yourself look or feel better as a human. I mean, I went through all of my 20s and 30s and 40s now too. I can't tell you how often I was trying to look like someone that I wasn't. Now I kind of maybe gone past that tipping point, and I'm at a point where it's like, I'd rather just reveal what a jerk I am most of the time. I'd rather just share with people what an imposter. Prepare people.
We're still recording. So finish your thought on the table. It's so great, your thought.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where it cut off, but I'll finish where I think it was, is that if there was some way that I could order food that would prepare people's minds and hearts to be that authentic with each other and then really want to focus in on the heat of that moment, that would be some amazing conversation. It would bring tears. It would bring a lot of people dropping their artifice. It would probably have people wanting to shift tables, decide where they actually wanted to sit. I mean, I think it's a profound setting you just put in my imagination there, Steve.
Beautiful, beautiful. So how can people support you, learn more about Ringarang, reach out to you?
Well, ringarang.com is the website. Which is a derivative app from our.
So Robert, how can we get a hold of you and support you?
Ringarang.com. That's where you'll read about our platform. Also, futureready.work. That's where we have the Future Ready app. It's a derivative of the Ringarang app, and it's used with underserved, disadvantaged students often who are at risk and need to stabilize their life so they can get powerfully into careers. And also at LinkedIn and Facebook.
Yeah, reach out to him. He's learned a lot, had a few technical difficulties, but the bulk of the message got out. God bless you, what you're doing, Robert. I support you 1,000,000%. And I'll be there, in the near future and the future to help you grow this thing and multiple things that you have going on. And everybody, thank you for watching. Me and Robert, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.